Hey, and welcome guys. Today's project, what we have is the AMT Star Wars AT-AT Walker. Now this particular kit I believe was released in 2005, but this is a re-release. I remember building this kit back in the early 1990s, and that was part of the reason I got it, just to redo it and hopefully do it well. And it certainly has its shortcomings. Now, from what I can find out, the closest scale that people have come up with is somewhere around 1/100th scale. So it should be slightly bigger or a bit bigger than the Bandai version of the AT-AT Walker. So let's just take a quick look at it. Very simple, not a lot of parts. And right off the bat, you can tell that we're going to have some raised panel lines. Now, I'm not going to do a lot with this kit. This is a fun build. I'm not trying to do more work than I have to. I think you can still get it looking nice with a nice paint job and some weathering. The kit does include, I believe, some of the little gun turrets and the little rebel base at home. So those are nice little additions to have if you're looking to make dioramas. But anyway, we're just going to put this thing together, and then we'll get on with the painting and weathering and stuff of that nature. Alright, so here's where we're at. As you can see, I've got part of the head of the AT-AT together. And this is a very difficult build, actually. It doesn't click into position. You basically have to hold two sides together while the glue dries, and then put another side, and then you're trying to get them all to align. So there's a lot of movement to get lined up, and even then you're going to be left with some gaps, and you're going to have some sanding to do. I even had a little bit of a issue up here where you can see I've addressed with a little bit of putty. But this part right here is it was quite a headache to get together. Again, the parts don't click in together, so you have to put some glue on one side and kind of put them up together. And the different levels you have this part which kind of overlaps, but then this side comes up over. Sorry I didn't take a picture while I was building it, but it was enough just to try to get it all together. But anyway, once I got the sides on and got this part and these parts kind of lined up, this part was significantly lower, and you can see where I put some strip styrene just to take up the huge gap. And I'm now currently in the process of just kind of filing this down to make this look like one piece, and then I'll have to sand it. I have some pretty nasty gaps right here that I'm going to have to address and put some putty in and sand to get there. Right now this part's just put in there just to kind of hold the shape so I don't press in on it too much to break the welds of the plastic. But it's a lot of work. So we're just that's where we're at. We put together our little gun turrets. That wasn't too hard, a little bit of sanding, and got them together so those are ready. So we've attached the neck piece, and again I've been working on sanding out and then rescribing some of these little tiny lines. A lot of this won't show as it kind of fits inside the pieces, but this part definitely will. So we're trying to address all that. And so let's keep moving forward. Hey, here we have the parts to the neck assembly, and it articulates, and it uses a rubber band system to kind of latch everything together. So I'm going to try to put that together here. First off, this was the rubber band that was included. Now this rubber band is obviously very old. It looks to be in good shape, but I happened to have one that looked a little thicker, and it wasn't. Looks like it's going to have a little bit stronger elasticity in it, if that's a word. And but we're going to try to put this together and see if we can just show you how that works. It's actually, I think, a fairly clever way of doing it, and I think you're good as long as the rubber band doesn't break. I think if the rubber band breaks on you, then you're going to be resigned to gluing the neck into a stationary position, because you end up locking when you glue this all together, which you have to glue it together to keep it together. You're not going to be able to get back in it. Sorry about that. I have to concentrate. All right, so you attach the rubber band on one side with these, gives these little ties or whatever to put the rubber band on, and then they send you this little piece right here, and you have to run it all the way through the neck and the joining parts, and then grab the rubber band and then keep it all together while you pull that rubber band through, like that. And then you take the other attaching pole, I guess. I don't know what name this is. Just kind of making it up as I go. And there we go. Alright, so there we go. That's our neck assembly. And it seems to be pretty sturdy. And we'll work around. Let's see, this is the top. And you know what? I've put it on back. Well, no, I think this is the top. Anyway, yeah, it looks like it's reversible, but I think the double part right here, or the wider part, I'll have to look because I'm not real sure how that, but I'm believing that that goes up. So I'm going to have to take some looks at some closer pictures to see. If not, it's not a big deal. I can take it apart and rearrange it. But I just want to show you how to assemble it. So what we may have to do, I may still end up taking it apart and go ahead and repaint the surfaces, because I think if I do it and don't just leave it like that and paint it, it's going to have some areas that are going to be exposed. So I'm going to take it apart, we'll repaint it, but just want to show you how that all attached. Alright, so here on the head of the AT-AT, I did decide to do a little bit of a modification. As you can see, I've opened up the eye of the AT-AT, or window, or whatever that is, and simply I took my little hand drill and drilled in a series of holes, being careful not to rub the drill against the outer edges of it. And anyway, I made a series of holes, 4 or 5 holes, and then I took my X-Acto knife, put a very brand new blade on it, so I have a good sharp blade, and carefully kind of trimmed it out all the way through the holes, and I was able to get almost all of that cleaned up with just the X-Acto knife. And then when I was just to final clean it up, I took this flat square file and just worked on cleaning it up. So we got it all cleaned up and a nice opening there, and what I'm going to do to fill that is I have this red sprue. This is from one of those Bandai Star Wars kits. These are like lasers that attach to the different ships. Anyway, the outer part's pretty thick, and I clipped off a section of the clear red part, and we'll take some clear parts glue and we'll glue that into the window, and that'll give us a nice little red window screen. So that'll look pretty cool. And but we're going to wait till after we get this all painted before we glue that in position. So that's what we have in store for that. You probably could light this kit. I've contemplated putting a little light in there, but overall, just considering the quality of the kit, and I just didn't think it was going to be worth the effort of trying to cut. The problem would be trying to find a place. There's plenty of space for the battery, but making a way to get to it, I'd have to cut something, and at this point, I just don't feel like it's worth the payoff to do all that. But there is room in case you want to do something of that nature to it. Alright, so I want to show you this because I've changed my mind about how I'm going to do this, and I am going to light the very front, the cockpit. Now I've already installed the red piece in there, and I was going to leave it at that. I thought about lighting it early on, but the issue was there's plenty of room in here for a battery and switches and stuff, but the issue is what would be how would I get to it once I seal it in. I'd have to have a way to remove something, or once the battery runs dead, or something of that nature. So I had almost given up on it because I didn't want to do any cutting and stuff of that nature, but then I realized when I put this bottom piece on, I was just test fitting it, that this actually sits in here really tight. I'm not going to fit it all the way in right now. It actually sits in here really tight without gluing, and because it's there will be no light inside this part of it, so I don't have to worry about light blocking, and the seams won't be visible from the way it's at. And so when I need to, I'll be able to just slide the leg part off and get to the battery. Now it's a single red 5mm red, single 5mm red LED, and I've just run it through the neck, and then I've hot glued it into place here. And there's a piece of styrene plastic here. You can see some aluminum foil that I put in here for light blocking purposes and to help direct the light toward the front. And it's the same for this piece of styrene, is help to light block the front and direct the light toward the front of that. And so that will work pretty well. The neck will still be able to move and have mobility. And again, it's all just hot glued into place right there. And then we'll run the wires in here, and we're going to put a 9-volt. Now the 9-volt alkaline battery for one LED should have a pretty significant lifetime. Should be many hours of use before I'd have to change it. So I probably won't have to worry about changing it anytime soon. But when I do decide to, I can I'll be able to get to it. So there's where we're at with that. This piece will slide in over here, and this actually kind of locks in pretty good. But we'll probably glue that piece in once we get it all finished up. So everything's looking good, and we'll just keep going. Hey guys, just wanted to show you what I have as far as the switch for the lighting. This is the bottom of it, and I've taken this little small switch and I've drilled a little hole in the bottom part so I'll be able to access it, and that will cut our light on. And I simply have the 9-volt battery, just a little bit of hot glue just kind of hold in place so it doesn't rattle around in there. With hot glue, it has a good grip on it, but I can easily pull that off without damaging the plate on there. So that'll keep it from rattling around. And let's see if we can get this all in here now. Hopefully I didn't miscalculate where that neck's at. Alright, so here we go, and like I said, I believe it's going to stay in place. It's on there pretty firm. There's a little bit of movement, but I don't think it's going to be significant. Like I said, most of it will be okay, and what I may end up doing is just putting a little bit of, just a tiny bit of glue, just to kind of hold in place, but not so hard that it can't be cut through or broken pretty easily. But then now we're going to attach our legs, and as you can see, I've added in a flat black coat that's going to be prepping for the paint, and it'll give us some shattering once we start putting our final coat on. So there's where we're at, and now I'm just going to get busy attaching the legs. Okay, so you can see from here, I first went over and I did my flat black base coat over all of it, and then I went over with this Vallejo light gray and started doing all the gray areas. Now the black primer will already give us some low light, some shading and stuff of that nature, but I've went over for gray coat. Now what I've done is put some more of this light gray, and then I've added in some flat white into my airbrush, so it's just a tad bit lighter. And what I'm going over is these panels kind of in the middle, and that'll help bring out the edges and give us some darker area around the edges of the panels and give us some color variation. Now just try to keep it in the middle and help bring out, if you can see where the shading's coming in, and give us our model a little bit more depth. Alright, so here we are with our finished AT-AT or AT-AT, however you want to say it. And just a quick look at it. We finished up all our painting, and we did some different weathering. We did some washes and a little bit of oils mixed in with some thinners to do some of the streaking. I also did some of Tamiya's Weathering Master kit to do some of the darker spots. On some of these square areas, I masked them off with some tape, and then took my weathering kit and kind of worked around the edges, so it would give it a little bit more of a worn panel on that part of it. And then just did some streaking. So let's take a quick look at the entire model. And I think overall it turned out pretty well. Really happy with it, especially considering, you know, this is the old AMT kit. There's a lot of fit issues. Definitely has its challenges, but it is a nice size, and overall it's turned out really nice. I'm going to show you how I lit it, and we're going to show you the switch. Now right here is our power switch, and we have that camouflage into the lower part of the body. And this lower section that connects all the legs and stuff is not glued to the upper body. It has a really snug fit, so now when I need to get to the battery, I can just pull this off and get to the battery. Now that alkaline 9-volt battery powering only one LED should last a very long time, so I don't foresee having to do that too often. So let's go ahead and hit our button, and now you can see the lit, I guess the eye of the AT-AT. And we still have, I did end up gluing the base of the neck a little bit. It was drooping down a little bit, but I don't think that had anything to do with the LED itself. I just think it was the nature of the connection and how that rubber band holds it up. But we still have some movement in the head itself, so I'm not real worried about it. It's going to be a static display. Now for the future, I do plan on building a small diorama with it. I have this Bandai 144 snowspeeder. Now I don't believe this is 1/44 scale, but just looking at it, I think it does fit nicely with the size of this model, so I don't think it's off scale by very much, and it looks appropriate to size. So I would like to do a diorama with the kind of like the trailing wire going around, doing the legs of some sort, some kind of snow base. And when we do that, we'll probably weather the AT-AT with some snow and make him look like he's been out in the snow. And I have a few other little fixtures. We still have the small gun turrets, which aren't painted yet. We could possibly add those in, and the AT-ST 1/44 scale. Again, this is pretty close to what it should look like, from what I can tell. It should be quite a bit smaller. So we'll work on that. I'm not sure. I'll try to do a video. I have a lot of projects. It may be next, but it may not. So no promises on that for right now. But again, I'm just taking a look at it, and very pleased overall. If you're willing to put the time in it, you can get these quite a bit fairly inexpensive. I believe I only paid about $15 for this, including shipping. So that's not bad for this size of a model kit. Just be prepared to do a lot of work on it. It's going to take a lot of sanding, filling in joints, things of that nature. But it paints up fairly nicely. And again, if you want to do lighting, very simple to light this thing. One LED, a battery, and a switch, and you're in business. Lots of room for the battery, lots of room for the LED, plenty of room for a switch down there. And if you do like I did, you don't have to seal it up, and you'll be able to get to the battery, so you don't have any wires or switches that look they're exposed. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, everybody have a good one.